This week on Lunchbox Envy, in 19th century America, they were known as Alaskan strawberries.
Pharaoh Ramesses III once made an offering of 12,000 jars of them to the god of the Nile.
Then Henry Ford built a car out of them.
It's beans! Beans, good for your heart. The more you eat, the more you fart.
I knew you were going to say that as soon as we got started.
I feel like we've all done a real journey with gut health, though, where we're like, actually, that's healthy digestion. Bit of fart, bit of, gas.
Farting is woke now.
Farting's so woke.
Should we say hello?
Oh, sorry. Hello. Hello, and welcome to Lunchbox Envy. I'm Rosie. I'm a chef and food writer, and I am here with my QI elves, Manu and Alex.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
Interesting thing that I've seen in the news recently is a lot of people have been talking about like the food trends for 2026 and stuff, and one of them is fibre. And obviously beans
Very high in
are
fibre.
very high fibre, very high protein. I think that really beans it's really crazy how big they've got.
So today, I think we're going to talk mostly about the famous baked bean, so the haricot bean.
Yep.
I'm going to talk a lot about soy, but there are so many different kinds of beans. We are just scratching the bean surface.
Yeah.
An introduction to the wonderful world of beans.
Exactly.
Definitely. We should talk about what is a bean.
Yes, what is
Let
a
me
bean?
guess.
Oh, go
It's
for it.
not a bean.
I think it is a bean.
It is a bean.
Beans are beans.
Beans are
yeah.
beans.
Brexit means Brexit and beans means beans. Okay?
Beans, Heinz.
beans, Heinz, yeah.
So they are legumes. So they're the fruits of a plant in a massive family of plants which contains alfalfa, peanuts, peas. There are over 20,000 varieties of legume. So they're the third largest family of flowering plants.
That's cool. But then, so what do the flowers look like? Could you ever have a nice floral
No, you
legume
definitely
arrangement
can't. Like,
on your
say,
table?
sweet peas. They
Yeah.
have beautiful
I have a
flowers.
sweet pea tattoo on my arm.
It's
Do you?
stunning.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, there are over 400 edible legumes, and beans are one of those edible ones.
It's pretty crazy. In this country, at least, it's pretty crazy. The bean that takes up the most oxygen in the cultural space is the baked bean, which I didn't even realise that wasn't a type of bean. But like, obviously, it's a haricot bean.
Yeah, which is a very standard small white bean, isn't it?
So the rhyme,
Beans, good for your heart.
yeah, the more you eat, the more you fart.
Yeah.
Is that rhyme actually true? Because I would have assumed that it's such a ubiquitous
Well,
childish rhyme. It's probably
I
not
can
true,
only
right?
speak for myself, but I do fart more when I eat beans.
It is so true on both counts.
Wow.
They make you fart loads, and they're really good for your heart.
Is farting good for your heart?
If you don't fart, you're gonna like eventually explode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
like
true.
cows do.
Yeah, exactly.
So starting with heart health, confusingly, one of the reasons that they're good for you is because they contain anti-nutrients.
Okay.
So
What's an
they're
anti-nutrient?
So it's a group of chemicals that mess with how your body absorbs other nutrients like calcium and iron. And plants contain them often to protect themselves from predators, so they can make plants taste more bitter. But they can also stop them from being digested too quickly, so they pass through the digestive tract of the animal and then they're pooped out the other end, and that's how they spread.
Right. Okay.
So beans contain a lot of anti-nutrients. They're really fibrous. And back in the day, when scientists first discovered anti-nutrients and how they affected the body, they were like, oh my God, fiber must be terrible for you because it's messing with all of this absorption. So they actually tried to get fiber out of our diet.
Wow.
Which would have been bad, because now we know that fiber is essential for a healthy body.
So they were all just really blocked up back in the day.
I guess so. It would have been. Oh, but they also around the same time they had loads of constipation cures, so maybe that's why. Do you remember like the jiggling machine?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and that's why they all look so miserable in photographs as well. Everyone's like,
Anyway, so fiber can lower your risk of obesity, high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and like gastrointestinal issues. And legumes and beans in particular contain saponins, which can help boost your immune system, reduce your risk of cancer, lower cholesterol, all of these amazing bodily benefits.
Okay, so they're great for your heart, and they do make you fart.
They do make you fart. So there was a 1968 paper called Gastrointestinal intestinal gas following food consumption, which tested different food groups, and beans came up as like pretty farty. So they confirmed the rhyme.
I really need to look at that paper.
It's basically because beans contain fermentable carbohydrates that our body can't digest, but bacteria in our gut can. And when the bacteria digest these fermentable carbs, they release a lot of CO2 and hydrogen, which is the farty bit. And you can actually reduce how much you fart from eating beans by introducing them slowly into your diet. So if you go from like eating no beans to eating an enormous portion, all of the bacteria is going to get really excited and start like...
Okay, that
all over
really
the place.
tracks actually, personal history wise.
Can I ask, like, on a scientific level, how do you measure how much someone is farting?
Oh, it's really hard. There's something called a rectal catheter, which is how most people have measured the volume of farts.
Got to be honest, this is exactly how I thought this episode was
Yeah.
going to go.
Yeah, I don't think
rectal
you need to explain how
catheter.
rectal catheter works, do you?
Rectal catheter has been mentioned. It's 10 minutes into recording.
But I think one of the really interesting things is you can kind of measure how much someone is farting. Measuring exactly what is in a fart is quite difficult because rectal catheters allow gas from the outside of your body in.
But they should do this in space. This is what all those experiments they do in space. This is one that they should do in space because there's no air.
They do fart in space, so much so in the 1960s, NASA had a dedicated flatus researcher. So this is from Mary Roach's fantastic book, Packing for Mars.
Oh, I love that book.
Wait, can I just ask, would their job title be head of flatulence? VP of farts.
Flatus sounds like Flotus. Like, you know, like
Yeah, it
First Lady of
does.
the United Flatus.
Flatus researcher. But his name was Edwin Murphy. And his whole shtick was basically like farting in space is really dangerous because of the levels of methane, combustible. We don't want that.
Oh,
And
wow.
also it's really antisocial. So his mission was to find people who didn't fart at all. And he was like, they're going to make great astronauts.
Wait, how do you have a person who doesn't fart?
He managed to find one.
Where does all
in
that
his-
gas go? Out of the mouth?
I have no idea. So he found someone that basically didn't fart after eating 100 grams of beans. And he was like, this is top tier candidate. And NASA eventually didn't listen to him because he was like, this is impossible.
It's not a priority, yeah.
Yeah.
But they did ban beans, cabbage, sprouts, and broccoli on early space flights until the 1980s to try
Oh.
and reduce farts in space.
Right. Is there not like not being stupid, but like, are there not vents that they could just, you know?
Well, if they got everyone to fart at takeoff, it would help the rocket get up there.
But yeah, in all of these experiments, beans are the food that they use to make test participants fart. It's such a reliable farty food.
Well, there we go. And actually, the other Bean that's been to space, fourth man on the moon, Alan Bean.
Oh,
Alan Bean.
The main thing I know about him is that he screwed up the mission by, it was only the second landing on the moon, and he was setting up the TV camera for the live broadcast, and he pointed it directly at the sun and burnt it out, so they didn't have a live feed, which is such a Mr. Bean thing to do, to go all the way up to the moon and then break the camera.
oh, bless him.
So beans are beans, but things like coffee beans are not beans, they're seeds. But they're called beans because they are fabiform.
Ooh,
Fabiform.
that's such a good word.
I'll say that again, fabiform. Yeah.
Fabiform?
Means shaped like a bean.
It sounds like a brand of female sportswear.
yeah. Discount. Spanx.
Primark sportswear. I'm going to use that now because when my cousin Milo was born, he had a head that looked like a baked bean. And I used to say, your head looks like a baked bean. And now I can be like, Milo, your head is fabiform.
Perfect.
Perfect.
What a lovely thing to say.
Just in case you're listening, Milo. Love you. Our first lunchbox today is from you, Alex.
I have brought you some beans on toast.
Yay!
It's a Saturday morning that we're having to record this on. I'm hungover. Manu hasn't slept. You've got a new baby.
Yeah.
Like, I'm honestly amazed that we're making this call, to be honest.
The collective sleep hours in this room is about
So
4.
good.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's
Nostalgia
looking
smell.
great. I'm ready to dig in.
I specifically wanted to talk about the tinno beans, the cano beans,
Yeah.
and the dominance in our food culture.
One thing that we touched upon earlier is that a baked bean in a can is not actually a baked bean in the sense that, like, It's not.
No. The big revelation is that baked beans
It's not been baked.
are not
What?
baked. Yeah.
Why are they called baked? Who did this?
Well,
It's based on the recipe of
Let's-
baked beans.
Yeah, let's talk about
Okay.
it. Let's go through because I've been in depth into the production process of how to make a tin of beans.
Deep in
It's
the
very
deep.
interesting.
I'm going to go in for more, actually.
Yeah, go
guys.
for it.
Listen.
So, as I said earlier, a baked bean is not a type of bean. It's a haricot bean, which are small and white, and they hold their shape very well. They're quite uniform, right? Like they're all very similar size and shape. They absorb flavor very easily. And so I looked into actually specifically how Heinz make their beans because they have one of the largest bean supply chains in the world.
Other beans are available.
In the UK, we ship most of our beans in from North America.
We don't really have the climate for cooking beans, do we?
No.
I think they are quite a resilient plant, though.
Okay.
They grow famously in really shit soil
Oh.
because they're nitrogen fixers, so they can get it from the air. I think we mentioned this in the Thanksgiving episode when Jack was talking about the three sisters. It's like a really nice kind of symbiosis between corn, gourds, and beans. And the beans' job is to bring all of this nutrients in from the air and fix it in the soil. So they can actually grow in quite a diverse range of
Yeah,
climates.
they're pretty easy, low maintenance. So haricot beans are dried
Yeah.
and then sent to a factory. Heinz have a massive factory in Wigan,
Ooh.
Yeah.
the Kit Green plant. It is Europe's largest food processing facility. It makes 1 billion cans every year.
Okay.
Isn't
Lovely.
that crazy? It runs 24/7, pumping out those beans.
24/7.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of food factories do. Like we were talking about the
Sandwich,
factories
yeah,
that run 24/7. I
24/7.
think it's just, especially when everything's so mechanized.
Yeah.
Heinz have a quite rigorous quality control process.
As they should.
As they should, exactly. Only the best.
Pays off.
They are tested with lasers. So what happens is the beans are all sort of dropped through kind of Wonka-esque waterfall of beans.
Amazing.
And then lasers scan them to look at size and shape and kind of uniformity. And then any beans that aren't exactly up to scratch are pinged out of the flow by a machine that shoots very precise, concentrated blasts of air. But they do this with quite a lot of foods. There are quite a lot of
I was going to say I've heard of
yeah.
the...
really fast reacting machinery basically that scans a wall of food that's falling down and just like flicks any that don't work out, so they go into a reject pipe basically.
What happens to the reject?
Oh, I don't
Like
know. I guess maybe to animals potentially. I don't know. So they go through this quality control process. They're then cleaned. Then they're soaked in hot water to rehydrate. Then they're blanched, boiled, to soften them up and remove all that kind of raw bean flavour. And it starts also breaking down the oligosaccharides.
Yes.
We start to get a little bit of like taste going there. That kind of sweet kind of, yeah.
Did they say how long for?
Several hours is all I've got.
Okay.
So oligosaccharides are the fermentable carbohydrates I was talking about earlier.
Yes.
Yes,
Got it.
exactly. Yeah. So they're dried, cleaned, soaked, blanched. They're not baked at any point. So then they get added to the sauce. What do you reckon the ratio is of bean to sauce?
I'm going to say
I'm-
50-50.
I'm going to say 70/30.
70% beans,
70% sauce.
70% sauce. Interesting.
Because I think you have to start with 70% sauce
Okay.
because beans, they will soak up the sauce.
Well, it's actually, Manu's really close. It's 51% beans by weight.
Yes.
I think it's I think it's interesting because a couple of percent the other way, and it's not a side, it's a sauce. It's more sauce than bean. It's a sauce with beans in it.
Also, looking at it, it looks like it's maybe 90% bean.
That's what I mean.
and
I would have
10%
looked at that and thought that's
yeah.
mostly beans with like 20% sauce, but actually it's nearly half sauce. You know, we don't. The exact Heinz recipe for the sauce is a secret, of course. As all these things are.
Spill the beans, Heinz.
Spill the beans in.
very
Hey.
nice.
But you know, it's got tomato puree and sugar and salt and vinegar and flavorings and spices, and then it's got thickener. Then the beans and the sauce go into the tin raw. They're sealed in an oxygen-free, sterile environment, and then they are pressure cooked inside the can, which I thought was so interesting. They're packaged before they're cooked. So the sealed tin is heated to about 121 degrees Celsius under pressure. And this is part of what makes tinned food and a tin of beans that classic gonna last forever food. They're essentially sterile inside, but cooks and pasteurizes at the same time. It's interesting, but beans are actually one of the hardest foods to can safely.
Yeah,
to put
they're
into a
really
can. They're
volatile, aren't
difficult
they?
Because if you put a low acid vegetable with sugar, with a thick sauce in a seal tin. That's like the perfect breeding ground for something like botulism. So they have to, first of all, the tins are internally lined with a special like kind of polymer coating so that the tomato sauce, the acidic sauce, doesn't dissolve the metal.
Yeah, right.
So a modern undamaged Heinz tin of beans, it has a printed sell-by date, but how long do you reckon it could last, theoretically?
I'd say 10 years. If I was really desperate, let's say it was nuclear war, I was in a bunker and I'd stored up a load of tins of beans, I would happily let them go 10 years.
Okay.
I want to say it's like honey or something. It's indefinite.
Pretty much. They could last about 5 years beyond the sell-by date pretty easily if you store them properly. But there are actually examples of them lasting up to 100 years and still being safe to eat.
Wow.
And it's the tin that degrades, not the beans. We'll recover old cans from like shipwrecks and polar expeditions and stuff.
And archaeologists will eat
They
them.
will try them, and they might be unpleasant, but they will be edible. In 1865, there was a steamboat called the Bertrand that sank in the Missouri River. Over 100 years later, in 1974, some cans of food were recovered from the wreck, and then chemists from the National Food Processors Association in America analysed samples and determined that the food was safe to eat.
We should really be trying harder to do, you know, when people buy babies a present, which is like the newspaper that was on the day they were born.
Or like a bottle of wine or something.
Yeah, bottle of wine. We should be doing that with beans.
Beans,
Aged
like
beans.
personalised named beans.
It's 40 years later and you're eating your tin of
for
beans.
your like inevitable divorce. Like, can I also just say that a nightmare scenario is being locked in an airtight bunker with Rosie and a load of beans?
What are you talking about?
So a little bit about then the history of Heinz. Heinz baked beans, they were launched in the UK in 1901. Which means that they have been available for longer than sliced bread, which is weird to think that you could buy beans in a can, but you couldn't buy the sliced bread to make beans on toast.
What did they eat them with?
Well, you could slice. I mean, you could slice bread at home.
Okay,
I'm talking about pre-sliced bread.
Just a
I mean,
massive
the
loaves, like, what do
concept
we
of slicing bread had been invented. I mean, like machine sliced bread that you could buy wasn't available yet because that was like 1903 or 1902.
It was
or something.
even later, maybe.
Was it? Well, actually, it must have been because
David Attenborough.
David Attenborough's
was
older than
born
sliced
before
bread. Heinz didn't introduce canned beans to the UK. In fact, they were first sold in 1886 by Fortnum & Mason as a luxury imported good from America because, as we've said, beans, especially kind of baked beans, they're more of an American dish originally.
Like cowboy food. I
I don't know about luxury, but yeah.
It was luxury here because they were an exotic good that was imported.
I
guess like
see.
in the way the avocado was probably quite exotic back when it was first introduced.
Yeah. The other thing to note is that commercially canned pork and beans are often called America's first convenience food.
Oh.
Because they're credited to Gilbert Van Camp, who is a tinsmith. Cool trade, I thought, and a grocer. And in 1861, him and his wife Hester, they started dabbling in canning. They started doing a bit of fruits and veg and stuff, and that was just for their shop in Indianapolis. Basically, they decided to do some beans because customers were like, "Can you just do some like nice cooked beans, please, Gilbert?"
By popular demand.
Yeah. And then the story goes that Gilbert added ketchup to this, along with some flavoured cured pork, to make it taste like the trad baked bean dish of the time, which was beans baked with pork and tomatoes, tomato sauce. The legend goes that in around 1861 or 1862, Gilbert Van Camp actually got a contract to supply the Union Army with his canned pork and beans. And that's what launched the brand's popularity, the Van Camp beans. And that is, up for debate, but it is one of the original canned pork and beans dishes that then became so ubiquitous in American canned foods. And they also claim that they are the first people to add tomato sauce to the beans.
Wow.
Talk to Heinz about it. That's what I want to say.
They probably did. I don't think Heinz
are
are claiming originality on anyone. They're just claiming supremacy over production at this point.
Time now for our second lunchbox, and that's mine. As you know, I've had a baby recently, and I'm spending quite a lot of time late at night whilst feeding him on my phone. And in order to stop scrolling incessantly on the social media apps, I decided to start playing games. And, and one of the games that I had come across thanks to a friend is a game on a website called www.foodguesser.com.
Oh, is it
So
like
basi-
GeoGuessr for food?
Exactly.
Right.
So you get shown a picture of a dish and it doesn't tell you the name of it and it describes it. You have to guess, where is this dish from?
Right.
Anyway, I play a lot of food guesser at late at night. And
This is so tragic.
something that comes up so much are dishes which contain pork and beans. Why is that? Why are they so often paired together? And then I was also thinking of the delicious dish that I just ate on my holiday to Tuscany, which was sausage and beans, which is what I've made today.
Oh, and it is
Yes.
fantastic. It's a big bowl of what kind of those beans are those?
Cannellini beans, and that is a lovely Luganega sausage.
There's
so
a
this is
huge spiralized sausage in the middle.
Beautiful.
yeah. So this is salsiccia e fagioli, which is a very, classic homely dish. And I think the crux of the discussion around why pork and beans are historically cooked together is actually because they were both cheap.
Right.
So
It's a peasant's dish. As we often say.
So pork didn't start out cheap, but once meat started being, universally
Yeah.
traded and also curing became part of the meat trading process, inexpensive cuts were used and cured, and then they were used to cook and stretch meals similarly with beans, and that's why they ended up together. The other thing is that cured pork, so like your ham hocks, your salt pork, your bacon, flavors things so well, and beans are, as we know, pretty flavorless. If we're really real, beans don't taste of much when they're just completely by themselves.
No, I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
The bean is like almost like a carrier. It's like bulk.
Yeah.
It's polystyrene.
So you need to flavor your beans when you cook them, and pork cuts, salted pork, bacon stuff, that was a great way of getting in like a really nice savory meaty flavor. And back in the day, the times of your olden days, don't ask me for a specific don't ask me for a specific
Ye olde.
ye oldie days, both cured pork and dried beans were really easy to store and transport. So it meant that anyone who was traveling long distances had a good meal at the end of the day. They had dried beans, they had their cured pork. And in particular, across the Old West, the early American pioneers would have a lot of beans and pork. There was a staple for the chuck wagon cooks that used to
What's that?
so basically when you had those big trains of people traveling across the Old West, there was a cook for the chuck wagon, the long
Oh, the dining car, basically.
yeah. And he would cook for everyone, and it was
amazing.
pork and beans.
What has happened to rail travel? Why don't we get big steaming dishes of pork and beans on?
I have literally never been
Lots of food.
more jealous of people who are going on like the Belmont
the dining cars.
trains. Oh my God, they look amazing. Anyway, it's also worth mentioning that in colonial New England, one of the reasons why people would often cook pork and beans is that it could be slow cooked overnight on a Saturday and then eaten on the Sunday, adhering to the Puritan rules that there was
no work on Sundays.
no work
Yeah.
on Sundays, no working on the Sabbath.
Yeah.
And that might, stretch further than that particular religious enclave. A lot of the beans and pork dishes that I'm going to talk about are Eurocentric and Latin American centric, or the Americas, because those are the places where pork is eaten more. Like in the Middle East, where they have great bean dishes, they don't always eat pork. So I don't want anyone to think I'm ignoring those delicious dishes. It's because they don't contain pork that I'm not going to talk about, because I am talking about pork and
Pork and
beans.
beans.
Do you want some of this?
Yeah, let's dig in.
okay,
Let's
yes,
have
please.
a nice spoon.
Wow.
It's a very simple dish, this. It's literally just the sausage, onions and garlic. I use a bit of chili and fennel, fennel seeds. I'll talk about why in a minute. And I actually did use jarred cannellini beans today because I am a new parent and I don't have the brain space to soak beans, let alone the time or the presence of mind.
It's weird that you eat pork and beans and the pig was probably fed soybean.
Yes.
So really you're just eating beans and beans with extra steps.
So, when I was doing my research, I decided to just see how many dishes I could find
Thank you.
across the world that have pork and beans, and literally it's just innumerable. I couldn't list them all if I wanted. You wouldn't want me to, Alex. It would be really annoying to
It'd be
edit.
like that Animaniacs song where they go through every country. Oh my gosh, this is so nice. It's so like herby.
Yeah, I got some white wine in there as well. But I'm going to mention some sort of relatively famous ones. So cassoulet, I'm sure you've heard of cassoulet,
Yes.
does also contain other meats, but pork is super essential to a cassoulet, and I'll go into that. Fabada, which is a dish from Asturias in northern Spain. Feijoada, which is from Portugal and Brazil. So good. Typically, in Brazilian versions, it would be black or brown beans that are used. There's a dish called pochero from the Philippines, pollo con frijoles from Mexico. Billions of them in Italy, of course. One of them is called fagioli con le cotiche. And actually, cotiche is pork rind. So the skin is cooked till very flabby and soft with the beans. Not for everyone. And then some other ones from Middle Europe. Bab goulash, bean goulash from Hungary. This one I really don't know how to say. Tarja gravjka from North Macedonia and the Balkans. Bandeja paisa from Colombia. There's just like
Wow, they're everywhere.
so many. Actually, there was one that came up that I thought you might be interested in called Guernsey bean jar, which is basically like Guernsey's answer to cassoulet.
Right.
I would describe it as. I'm reducing it to that. Sorry, listeners from Guernsey, if you don't agree. It's basically beans and ham and pork belly and stuff, and it's just cooked down.
The Channel Islands get so much attention on this podcast.
Yeah, friend of the pod, Guernsey. And another one I like the sound of is called porotos con meriendas from Chile, and that is beans with sausage and spaghetti, which made me think of
Interesting.
the holy trinity of baked beans, frankfurters, and spaghetti hoops.
That is interesting.
I think we should all try it.
Maybe.
Probably one of the most famous places that pork and beans is consumed predominantly is from the States, where baked beans, the original pork and beans is baked beans. So in America, baked bean dishes are thought to have originated with the indigenous tribes of the Penobscot, the Narragansett, and the Iroquois, who slow cooked beans in clay pots buried in holes with hot stones.
Oh, cool.
Pre-colonial times. They were flavouring it with meat that they had available. So could have been turkey, could have been deer, could have been bear. I mean, unlikely bear, but anyway. Then the colonists quickly kind of like adopted this native cuisine because they didn't know what the fuck to cook when they got there. But they introduced pork and like domesticated farm animals to that part of the world. And that's when pork started getting used more widely in those dishes. And it's a pretty pragmatic pairing because nutritionally, beans provide plant-based protein and fiber. Pork provides amino acids and vitamins and animal protein. And actually, all of that together becomes a very complete protein source.
A balanced diet.
Because there's a lot of sort of like chat around the fact that it would make you go further. Like you would have way more energy if you ate your pork and beans, your baked beans, you know, because
You're actually being properly fed.
you're being properly fed. It's a really, and that's actually part of the story of cassoulet from France. So cassoulet traditionally, for those who don't know, is haricot beans, almost always with some kinds of cuts of pork. Certainly like cured pork belly and a sausage of some kind, often Toulouse. So the other ingredients would potentially be confit duck or mutton. Some, regions just differ on whether it's goose or duck or like whatever. But and it's baked in a clay pot in a baker's oven. It's left for a long time, and you stir it as it cooks every so often. The best kinds of cassoulet have like a really thick crust from all of the meat juices and the fats, and
So it's the fats like caramelized.
caramelized with the beans, the protein in the beans, and it crisps up and it gets like, oh yeah. Cassoulet is like a highly contentious regional dish in France because every little small town thinks that they invented it. In fact, there was a quote that I found, which is that cassoulet is not really a recipe, it's a way to argue among neighbouring villages in Gascony. Gascony being southern France.
So it is from Gascony.
It's from Gascony. The sort of accepted town is Castelnaudry, but also because in the 100 Years' War, famously, or not so famously, because for you like me, didn't know very much about 100 Years' War.
I know that it wasn't 100 years. That's the only thing I know.
Yeah. The 100 Years' War, the inhabitants of Castelnaudary were under siege from the English, and apparently, this is actually a myth.
Yeah.
They pooled their remaining food to cook up a dish that was really hearty so that their men were able to push back the northern British hordes back to the channel.
One big dish.
Yeah, it's actually...
This is like the lasagna being made in Wembley Stadium for COVID. Did you remember that?
And it is completely false because no such siege actually occurred.
Yeah.
And also, Edward the Rat Prince did in fact ransack that town. And, so, yeah. That is a lie. But that's how the sort of story, the romantic side of the story of Cassoulet came to be.
I like that it's not an accident, because a lot of the French foods that we talk about are accidental inventions.
Yes.
So that's a deliberate lie, at least. Which I quite like.
It's marketing. Look, it's just ancient marketing.
It is.
I also wanted to talk to you about soaking beans.
Ooh.
In order to cook dried beans, you can just cook them just as they are, just bung them in some water and boil them and boil them and boil them. But it will take forever and the results won't be as consistent or perfect as you will get from a soaked bean. I think I've spoken about this before, like cold things going in cold water. But with legumes, with beans, their seed coat thickness really influences how fast they soak up water. And that can end up with beans that break or beans that are like hard in the middle, soft and broken on the outside, that kind of thing. There's loads of reasons to soak them. It reduces their cooking time significantly. Soaking them gets their better texture, right? So the dry beans only have a moisture level of 12 to 14%. When they soaked, they double in size, and the massively high moisture content makes them way softer.
And how long do you do it for? Is it overnight?
It depends. Yeah, I'd say pretty safely, a rule of thumb is you should soak them for like 6 to 8 hours. And usually if you're prepping for something, you probably just do it the night before and it's...
Yeah.
And can you over soak beans?
Yeah, you can. I would say if you're leaving them for more than 24 hours, that's questionable. There is an interesting thing as well, which is particularly pertinent to Londoners. If you soak your beans in hard water, which famously London
very hard
has,
water.
it has a high mineral content, and that means that they will actually take even longer to soften. Because those minerals like calcium and magnesium can interact with the natural components in the beans and result in basically just like a bit more of a complicated tenderizing process.
Well, it's a nightmare because we're all in such a rush as well. So, you know.
No, but chefs of London, take note. You might need to add a couple of hours to your bean soaking time.
Or just buy loads of bottled water.
Yeah, exactly. Using distilled water is the answer. The other sort of cheat that a lot of people do is adding salt or baking soda to the soaking water. It's also worth saying, as we've touched upon before, that soaking dry beans makes them much easier to digest because of that oligosaccharides being broken down. I actually read that sometimes if you haven't had time to soak your beans or you're using the canned processed beans that will definitely not have been soaked and will be quite high in oligosaccharides, if you cook them with cumin seeds or fennel seeds, that can help break down that protein a bit. So if you are like, shit, I really could do with not farting loads in this meeting, and yet here I am about to eat a can of beans. Grab some cumin and fennel.
My Gujarati family in Zimbabwe, they always used to serve like little sugary fennel seeds at the end of a meal, I think to aid digestion.
Yeah.
And fennel's used in a lot of like healthy digestion foods. So that now I'm like, that makes
Do they
sense.
do that at Indian restaurants as well, where sometimes you get a little tray with 3 stuff in, and it's like little tiny bits
Little
of
coloured,
Yeah.
They look kind of like hundreds and thousands, but then there's also seeds.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, no, I put fennel in this because that's quite traditional, like Tuscan Italian preparations of beans and sausage. But like, it is also actually functionally going to help us digest those beans a little bit better.
It was lovely. It's a veritable bean feast. Have you heard the phrase bean feast? I think we might have mentioned it in Christmas or Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah, the Bean King.
The bean, bean feast. So a bean feast is, I remember it from do you remember the song that Veruca Salt sings in the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where she's like, I want this and I want that and everything. But she sings, I want a bean feast. That is a historical thing from the 18th and 19th century. It was a tradition where employers who, say, ran a factory would treat all of their employees to a big meal. And it was a pork and bean-based dish, which was the most traditional thing to be served. So that's what a bean feast is.
It really makes me think of the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
It's like Fozzie party.
That's what
when
I'm imagining as well.
Yeah.
Bring back the bean feast, I'd say. I mean, also like raise wages in line with inflation, but also
I was going to say, I think monetary remuneration is probably more important. time for our third and final lunchbox, and that is from you, Manu.
Today I have bought natto.
Yeah, I've always wanted to try
I know,
natto.
Same.
I've never heard of it. What is it?
So it is a fermented soybean dish that's really popular across Japan, and they're fermented by inoculating them with a specific bacteria which is called Bacillus subtilis.
What? So, as in they have a bacteria like a sourdough starter?
Yeah, exactly. Or like inoculating cheese to make it blue. Like that fungusy bacteria.
I don't like the word inoculation around my food, I have to say. That makes me a bit squeamish.
Delicious.
Well, I think you're an absolute wuss.
I don't like the idea of giving a food a disease to cook it, I think.
Basically, this bacteria, as it's fermenting the bean, it creates a very sticky, slimy biofilm to protect it as it moves through the food.
Alex's favourite words when it comes to food, sticky and slimy.
So it's just like a very funky, umami, slimy soybean.
It's from Japan, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So traditionally, you're supposed to stir it really, really hard to make it even stickier because there's a kind of folklore around the stickiness activating all of the kind of healthy prebiotic-y nutrients. So it's like the stickier the better. It looks spectacular, like in videos.
Do you just eat them by themselves? I see you've brought like a sort of il meal deal thingy.
So I think traditionally you have it on rice.
Yeah.
You don't have it on its own. Kind of like the century egg we tried when we were doing the eggs episode. It's a pretty strong flavour, so it should be eaten with other things.
It's also the important thing about it, right, is that you shouldn't open a pack of natto and then let it sit. Like, it has to be freshly opened, freshly stirred. You eat the whole thing in one go.
Right.
Because otherwise you don't get the best of it. It's a breakfast food, I think. Like, a lot of Japanese breakfasts will have a scoop of natto or a little box of natto to eat with.
Did the beans themselves have a smell on their own? Ooh, almost weirdly milky.
Yeah, like caramel, like butterscotch.
Yeah, very interesting.
Oh, I'm really up for this.
Okay.
And so this needs a really good vigorous stir, did you say?
Do you want to give it a stir?
Yeah,
so
aside
like
from the middle, it's probably
300
easiest,
times
yeah.
apparently. So you can see the slime getting more.
It's got the consistency of like caramel or melted toffee.
Yeah.
Like,
And now, like,
it looks very
lift some
sweet.
up. That's what all the creators do on Instagram.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
Whey.
Oh, look at,
This is the funnest food we've ever had on
love
here.
look at that bean pool.
It smells pretty good.
Oh,
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot more
Ooh.
sour than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
It's a
my
bit-
favourite.
You always say that about so many foods.
It's like,
It's blue cheese at the end.
Oh.
it's a bit coffee.
Yes,
it's
there's
like
something-
It's bitter,
It's
yeah.
kind of very milky coffee caramel
Wow,
latte.
that does
smell.
taste a lot. I was not expecting. I was expecting more cheese funk. And I
It's
got,
definitely funky at the end. Like the
Oh, wow.
aftertaste on my tongue now feels quite like blue cheesy.
So today I wanted to talk a bit about soy in some of its more unusual forms. Soy is such a versatile bean. Like I said, it's one of the most important crops in the world because it's used for animal feed. But soy is used in all sorts of products. One of my favorites is printing. Soy oil, which is made by pressing dried hulled soybeans, is used as a base for pigments used in printing. So quite a few newspapers are printed using soy oil. So the Tampa Bay Times, the New York Times.
The New York Times is printed with soybeans.
So maybe not today, but at some point around the 1990s, they started using soy oil based pigments because it was more sustainable than the common petrol based pigments.
Right.
So basically the oil acts as a kind of vehicle for the darker pigments to move around in. And soy oil is a lot clearer than petrol. So the pigments come out a lot brighter, more vibrant, which is really cool.
Soy allergy is one of the most annoying allergies
Yeah.
I've heard to have. I luckily don't have it.
Yeah.
Would you be allergic to soy newspaper if you had a soy allergy?
I mean, are you licking the New York Times every morning?
No, you know, what if your fish and chips came on the New York Times and you had a soy allergy?
Oh, yeah.
You'd be in trouble.
But you'd almost certainly never trace it back. Like, it would never occur to anyone. It's almost like an episode of House. Being
Yeah.
like, what are you allergic to? Not the fish or the chips.
To the writers of
newspaper.
House,
Yeah.
here's an idea.
That show that ended over a decade ago.
Okay.
Thinking about eating inks. food safe crayons are often soy based as well. So they use soy oil in the fats that make crayons. So if kids like end up chewing on them, they'll be absolutely fine. And according to the Kansas Foundation of Agriculture in the classroom, an acre of soybeans can make 82,368 crayons.
That's crazy.
Wow.
I know.
Now I'm picturing a field of crayons growing naturally where it's like corn and they all grow in beautiful iridescent colours and it's like something out of Wicked.
Does soy grow everywhere?
So they grow all across America. It's actually one of the crops that is causing a lot of deforestation in South America.
Yeah.
So growing soy to feed animals is actually really bad for the planet. Anyway, so that's ink. There's also another really cool use, which is in firefighting.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you're really throwing us a lot of curveballs
No,
today,
dude,
Manny.
soy is a very versatile bean.
So when the New York Times warehouse goes up in flames.
Exactly. You can put that out with some soy foam.
So we're talking about fire fighting with foam rather than water. So like the
Yes.
kind of stuff that comes out of fire extinguishers, but on a
Exactly.
professional firefighting scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the issues with conventional firefighting foam is it has usually contained a lot of nasties called PFAs or forever chemicals. And these contain a lot of carcinogenic toxins that damage our bodies. They damage the environment, and firefighters are exposed to enormous quantities of these when they are putting out flames with PFAS foams. One of the really cool things that's come out of soy production is they've realized that one of the byproducts of growing this much soy is they can kind of use the soy proteins to create a more eco-friendly foam
Great.
that has no carcinogens in it. And firefighters love this. And a lot of farmers in the US in rural areas are actually volunteer firefighters as well. So there's quite a closed circuit of like farmers growing soy and then that soy being used in the firefighting community. And it's really wholesome watching all of these videos.
Well, there's also an incentive to set fires. So we might get a lot of
That is
pyromaniac
true.
farmers.
What? Because then they can profit off that with
Then
their
they can
soy.
sell, exactly. They set fire to their own bean warehouse, put it out with bean foam that they've been paid for, and then they claim on the insurance. Then the journalist that picks up on this and starts to uncover the conspiracy is killed by his own newspaper because he's allergic to soy.
What a tangled web.
The name of it is called There's Been a Murder.
Very
You're
good.
not gonna believe it.
But yeah, no, it's really nice watching these firefighters talk about having lost loved ones and colleagues to all of these horrible chemicals and what they're working with, and then this miracle product that's totally safe. It's really, really nice.
That is nice.
And then the last use of soybeans I wanted to talk about is exorcism.
Oh, for God's sake, Manny, everything you're throwing at me here.
It's literally insane.
Exorcism in a vague sort of like freeing your home, freeing your future year of bad spirits and demons.
Okay.
So there is a Japanese spring welcoming festival called Setsubun, which is literally the division of the season. So it's held just before the spring season starts. And it's kind of like a spring cleaning, but for your
aura.
juju.
Yeah.
Exactly. People gather at temples and shrines, but you can also do this at your home. They perform something called a bean scattering, which is where you'll like throw roasted soybeans into the faces of people dressed as demons, and it's supposed to like hit them in the face, hit them in the eyes, and you shout "Devil's out, fortune's in," and that's going to make your year fantastic.
Next time Alex walks in the door, I'm going to be like,
Devil's
out! Devil's out!
And they think that this practice comes from a legend to do with an ogre who was vanquished by having beans thrown at his eyes. So
It's kind of Jack and the Beanstalk vibes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's funny how those fairy tales do translate worldwide, but just it's slightly different formats.
We mentioned in the intro that Henry Ford of Ford Motors made a car out of soybean.
yes.
Did he?
He did, yes. In 1941, this was a legit working prototype. The body panels that go on the frame of the car were made from a plastic that was derived mostly from soybeans and also other farm crops like wheat and hemp and flax. And the frame and the engine were still, steel, but the body of the car
like an
was
edible
plant-based.
car.
Yeah, it was eco. And Ford made it because he believed, it was pretty ahead of his time, he believed that farmers should be supplying the raw materials for industry, not just food. But he also wanted less of a reliance on steel.
Right.
Like, cars at the time, they were so heavy, made almost entirely of steel. Soybean body made the car 450 kilograms lighter than a standard Ford. So that is a lot of fuel saved and a lot more efficient. They had a big sort of launch event in a place called Dearborn, and I guess probably one of the things that people might be skeptical of is whether it's safe, because if you make something out of hemp and
Sounds like you could smoke it.
in a crash, what's going to happen? And he famously demonstrated at this press event how durable it was by hitting it with an axe, and it also bounced back, which caused a real sensation, which is pretty cool. But the project, I kind of died a death because of World War II, as with so many things.
Damn
So
it.
all the Ford's factories were requisitioned during the war, and they switched to making bombers and military equipment. And I think the idea kind of just sort of disappeared. But there are a lot of modern cars that now use soy foams and composites from hemp and flax and other
Interesting.
plant-based materials. So I mean, it is alive in a general sense.
Ah, I had no idea.
I would like to drive a car that is both made of beans and looks like a big bean. Fabiform car. The Apple car that the worm drives in The Busy World of Richard Scarry.
Weirdly, I do know what you mean. That is it for this week's edition of Lunchbox Envy.
You can follow our socials for foodie facts and podcast updates. We are on X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Lunchbox Envy Pod.
You can also get in touch and send us your facts, recipes, and questions by emailing us lunchbox@qi.com.
It's been a pleasure.
I've been Rosie McKean and you've been great.
Wow.
We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Lunchbox Envy was hosted by Manu Onryo, Alex Bell, and me, Rosie McKean. It was produced by Alex Bell. This has been a quite interesting podcast.